Hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Alday. I'm the host of the Leaps of Insight podcast. This show is about the path for growth. It's for people who are looking for their true selves. We are here to support you and also to challenge you with new perspectives and new ways of being in the world. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Leaps of Insight podcast. Today we have Chef John Taylor as our guest. Hi, John.
Hi, Fernando. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
It's a pleasure seeing you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and what wakes you up in the morning?
What do I do? Well, I've been 25 years in kitchens as a cook, which has been a thoroughly enjoyable time. Then we had Corona. Then I decided that I didn't want to sort of go back into that kitchen sort of mentality. So then it was try to find what it was that I wanted to do. And then I stumbled across smoking salmon, and that's what I've been doing for the last nearly 3 years now. So yeah, that's basically it. And that's how I got to where I am today. What wakes me up in the morning, I get up at sort of about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I go for a sea swim, come back, do some Wim Hof breathing. Then I do a lot of stretching, then I do a little bit of training. And then I'm ready for the day. So by the time the missus wakes up, I'm 2 hours into beast mode already. So it's a good way to live.
Yeah, fantastic. There's a lot of flavor behind what you just said there. First of all, I want to ask you where in the world you are right now, and how come you're able to have a sea swim every morning and get your day started that way.
Well, about 10 years ago, we decided that London wasn't for us and our family. The children were getting to an age where you had to choose between religion and schools, and that's not what growing up's about, as far as I'm concerned. Growing up's about having fun and being young, and not having pressures and not having to worry about specific boxes and situations that society wants to label you and put you in. So we decided to try and find somewhere else. We looked at different places, Australia, Canada. It was all too far, really. And then we had friends from Denmark that we used to visit every year, that my girlfriend met through studying a degree. Then we visited them, really liked the place, get back to London every year, and said what a shit it was. We need to move, we need to up our sticks, we need to do the big decision. And then we did. We gave up our jobs and our house for 1 year, a sabbatical, and then we came and lived in my friend's cellar. And then the little old lady next door put her head over the fence and asked if he wanted to buy her house. So I asked her how much, got a good deal, and then we bought a house, and that was 10 years ago. And here we are in Denmark. We live in a small little island in between the two big islands. So you have the two big islands either side, and then there's a small island called Fyn. So we live in a little town called Nyborg, which is just on the other side of the big bridge that was on the Tour de France. If you watched that, you would have seen the big suspension bridge that they rode over the first time ever. And we live in a little town called Nyborg, which happened to be many years ago, it was the actual capital of Denmark. So I get up in the morning about 4:30 and drive down to the beach, which is about 5 minutes away. I have my daily dip, and I'm ready to rock and roll after that. It's all good. And that's continually, that's near enough every day throughout the year, come rain, shine, sleet, snow. Yeah, the colder it is, the more of a buzz you get on your skin. So yeah, it does become quite addictive, but it's also very good for you.
Yes, it sounds delicious. And after that, you do a little bit of Wim Hof breathing. How do you feel after your breath work every day?
I feel really good.
What does that do to you?
It focuses on me, and it sort of brings everything in. Everyone will tell you how important breath work is. I mean, I also been doing Tai Chi for like 15 years, and in Tai Chi, breathing is very important. But like when you're just laying there doing a breath hold with Wim Hof, it sort of centers you in yourself. And then I find different scenarios, like your sort of the imagination color changes through the process as well, which is quite, I don't quite know what it all means. Um, and it's not about finding out meaning, it's just about being in the moment. I'm not one of these who has to discover what every single thing means. I'm quite happy to be just in the moment, and this is where I am, and this is what I'm doing. So yeah, I've been doing this sort of Wim Hof for about 3 years. Um, Gone up to about 6 minutes breath hold, average around 4.5, 5 minutes on a breath hold. And that's a breath hold internally, focusing on yourself. And it's sort of like a reverse breathing meditation. And the beginning part of it, after when you go into the breath hold, you get quite a nice tingle across the body, makes you feel good. You feel like the blood's pumping everywhere. And then when you come out, you feel quite nice and relaxed and focused and centered.
Yes, wow. The centering and focused are a great way of starting the day. And I want to talk to you because last time we chatted a bit. We talked about your history, how you got started in kitchens back in London, the first job you got there, and how it's a bit of a wild life. So from getting started as a chef and joining that tribe up to how you started changing things and salmon. So can you tell us a little bit of that story? I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I started out sort of back in 1988 as a party popper, raver in the warehouse, acid house parties. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Beautiful time to be alive. Watching, it was almost like the 60s, the swinging 60s, because
Yes.
acid house was just being born. So we embraced it with open arms and open mouth, and anything that we could put down our necks, we did, and we continued to do that for quite a little while. Then I started to sort of travel the world. Had some big issues. Violence was quite prominent growing up in Stepney, East London, and I've never been a small person, so I was never afraid of standing up for myself. So that was quite prevalent in the sort of the early 80s, early mid 80s. Then I decided that I was going to go travelling at the age of 16. So we bought a one-way ticket to Thailand for 4 weeks, me and a few of the friends. Went to Thailand, had a fantastic time, came back, saved up some more money, went to India, stayed there for, I think it was 5 weeks, traveling around India and Goa, raving, enjoying myself. Came back home, saved up some more money, went back, done Nepal. And then we just continually, well, I continually, a lot of the people stopped after the first initial go in Thailand, and I just carried on traveling. Really, really enjoyed it. I'd say it's sort of like a PhD of life. I would much rather have spent the money I spent traveling and what I've learned and got from traveling than any classroom in the world. What I picked up from it was just amazing. I sort of done it in reverse because I became a chef, but when I was traveling, I didn't know I was going to be a chef in the beginning. So I had the awe experience of food. So I went from like my mum and my nan's cooking of roast beef and two potatoes to pad thai in Thailand. So it's
Yes.
quite a big cultural sort of difference and shift. And I was just blown away by the different flavors and the tastes, and the smells and the culture and everything that food can bring together is quite it's quite magical, really. I don't think many people appreciate it when they're putting food in their mouth. They're putting food in their mouth for fuel, but if you look deeper into what you're doing, even the preparation of it and how you share it and how you bring it together on a table, and you break bread with another human being, that I find it all fascinating. Have found it fascinating. I have about 700 cookbooks that I've purchased over the years. Don't really do the recipes, but I just like to pick a cookbook up, read it, get a little bit of inspiration, put it down, and then buy another one. So I've sort of come out of that now, that moment of my life, which quite lasted quite a long time, and there's a considerable amount of money. But I can always. And now what I do as well is I don't. pick up my phone anymore. I used to never pick up my phone. I used to pick up a cookbook and read it. So there was stacks of cookbooks in the toilets, in the bathroom, everywhere. Everywhere you went, there was a stack of cookbooks. And then the phone sort of took over a little bit. And now I've recognized that and managed it again. And now I'm back to my books again. So, and I find just little snippets, little sentences and things like that now where I underline and I take more from the written word than what I did when I was younger, if that makes sense. I just used to look at it and look at the recipe and look at the picture and move on. But now I'm diving more deeper, and I feel like I'm connecting with the people who written the books, like some of the chefs and some of the food photographers and restaurant owners and stuff like that have written the stuff. So yeah, so it's good.
Yeah, wow, wow. I think it's impressive because at the beginning, when you were talking about the breath work,
Hmm.
you were saying that you're not the kind of man who looks for meaning in everything.
Hmm.
But now, when it comes around food, you did go deep into that
Oh
hole. You know,
yeah,
you did go deep on that one,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
It was a rabbit
um,
hole. It was a rabbit hole for
yes,
because also when you cook, you have you have a you have something inside you that you need to find the knowledge, and there is
yes,
no one on this earth that can have the amount of knowledge that comes with food because of the cultural significance, the different cuisines, the different borders, the different way, even just in the country that you like that we live in separately. The cuisine changes, the dialect changes, the way you look at it, the seasons. So it's a rabbit hole that you if you go down it, you're never coming out.
yes, and something very particular about it is very primordial. It unites us as humans.
Hmm.
The food is different in every place, but in the end, the cultural and the human aspect is very it's very
Completely.
powerful.
And
Yeah.
that's why I prefer it. As some we spoke to previously about this. I'm not religious, but I find food almost it's above religion. It's above everything. We was here on the earth before any of the bullshit that was put in front of us. We was running around. We came out of the trees. We'd rip up things and we'd stick it in our mouth and we'd chew on it. And yeah, and then obviously we became more attuned with what we was doing. We became, this is enjoyable. Let's take the time. You don't have to rush it. It's not just for fuel. This can be pleasurable. So we taught ourselves how to sit down and how to enjoy food. And then obviously with that becomes how you share it collectively with friends and family. And then obviously alcohol was introduced into it as well, which made it a lot more pleasurable experience for a lot more people. We've been breaking bread and chinging glasses for a long, 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 long time, and we will continue to do so.
Yes, and that's something you were talking to me about last time, about the culture in kitchens. You've started how many kitchens?
I've opened over 16 kitchens from scratch. So from the idea to the actual food on the plates in the end, you know. So, and that was, I say, now I look back at it. At the time, I just used to enjoy it because I was in the moment. I was continually doing it. But now I look back, it's sort of entrepreneurial because it was 16 businesses that you opened separately. Everyone has a different cuisine. Everyone's a little bit different. You have a different crew. You have a different crowd, different setting, different country now as well for me. Um, and as the beauty of a kitchen is you never know who's going to walk through the door and want to be a chef. And it's not about have you got the physical paperwork that says you're a chef. I don't give a shit about that. Have you got the right attitude? Do you want to learn to cook? Have you got the balls to do it? And if you have, I'll teach you. The rest doesn't matter. I've took I've took people from the pot wash. We used to have a lot of Brazilian boys come in. Great boys. Really worked hard. And if they wanted to work, they'd come and say, "Chef, I want to be a chef." No problem. It'll take you 1, 2 years. I pay you more than the pot wash, but you got to learn. You got to do, and you got to have a little bit of respect for yourself, the environment, and the food that you're working with. And I've trained up a lot of people with no qualifications. and they could walk into most kitchens and stand shoulder to shoulder with the chefs and get through a good service.
So a restaurateur would hire you and you would open the kitchen for them?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that how it worked?
that's how it works. But as you say, you got people who restaurateurs who know what they want to do and they know the concept that they want. So then you go in and you do that sort of concept. Then you have people that don't really know, and they can be literally a week, 2 weeks before you're opening, and they still haven't got a menu. I opened a restaurant for Gordon Ramsay. We didn't have a proper menu or recipes 2 weeks before we opened because we didn't finalize it, and we were still sort of concept working around and finalizing it and stuff like that. But that's a little bit late, you know. You want to be a little bit have your, as we say, you need to have your eggs in line before that.
Yeah, and what I was remembering from what you told me last time is that it's usually a cast of characters, and that you have to respect everybody. It's a bit of a tribe kind of
Completely.
feeling, tribe
Yeah,
kind of mentality in there,
yeah,
and how you treat each other. It's getting to know each other at a very personal level and not just getting the job done. Can you tell us a bit about how the culture is inside the kitchen? Most
yeah.
of us don't see it.
The culture is a fantastic culture. As I say, you bleed together, you sweat together, you cry together, you laugh together. Culturally means nothing. Religion means nothing. Anything where you come from means nothing. You are a band of brothers and sisters. You're one together team. It's like the army. Every day you go to war. At the end of the war, that's the end of service. You clean down. You share a beer. You give each other a pat on the back. You go home. You could see each other again in the morning. And it's rinse and repeat. And it is, you are only as good as your last service. Every service is like a theatre, it's like a stage show as well. So you're performing, you're going to war and performing on a stage continually, every single service you do. And it just keeps going and going and going. And as the chef, you're sort of the orchestra, you're leading the symphony. So you have to lead the battle cry, you have to lead the charge, and they have to look up to you in a way that they respect you for what you do. So there's no point just standing there shouting because that doesn't do anything. They've got to look up and say, chef's willing to do any shitty job. I don't ask people to do a shitty job, I do the shitty job. Then they see you doing the shitty job. They don't ask, there doesn't become this hierarchical bullshit of, I don't pick the shitty leaves, I don't pick herbs, I'm the chef. But if you're the chef, you should be showing people how they should be looking to each other with respect and honour about how we all do what needs to be done to get through the day. And that way you have a much more cohesive team, and everybody enjoys each other's company better because we're all the same. No one's better than anyone. The pot wash, we couldn't run a kitchen without the pot wash. So he's just as important in the scenario as I am. If you haven't got dishes to put the food on, you don't have a service. If you don't have a service, you don't have a restaurant. So we are all part of the big cog that makes it all go round and it all work.
Yes, but it's a big leadership lesson in there, how the chef leads by example.
Completely. I don't think there's any other way. I've worked with some chefs, they're shouty. I've worked with some chefs, they're clipboard chefs. I've worked with some chefs, they're not even in the kitchen, you know? But you can only adapt what you know through learning from where you've been and who you've worked with and under and for. And you cannot be taught how to manage people. It's you have to feel it and you have to learn it individually because everyone is different. So as I said to you before, you're a drug counsellor, you're a marriage counsellor, you're a cousin, you're an uncle, you're a dad. You have to wear all these different caps for all the different people. All people learn differently as well. Some people, they like to be visual. I can show you a plate of food. Some people like to have the recipe and then see and then do it and feel it. So we all learn differently. We all take in knowledge differently and we all perform differently. So as I said, it's like a symphony. If you're not conducting every single one to how they want to be done, there's no point just shouting and barking orders at people because that's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to lose your voice and you get frustrated and stressed and all that sort of stuff. And that's not a good way to run a kitchen.
Yeah, fantastic. And now you are not doing these kitchens anymore. There's a point in your life. How did you transition from kitchens to what you're doing now?
Transitioned because we had Corona. So I opened what was the biggest barbecue grill in Copenhagen. It was a nightclub for the group that I was working with. And that was like a sort of challenge that I was like, right, I've not done this before. I'll do it. Nightclub with food, high end. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's do this. Then Corona came. We got locked down. And because it was considered to be a nightclub, so when the restaurants could open, they opened. And because the rules here in Denmark, it was considered to be a nightclub. So that meant we couldn't open. So then I was like, well, if it's not going to open, I need to go and find something else to do. Thank you very much. It's time to move on. Not completely out of the industry, but just sideways, find something else to do. So I tried sort of afternoon tea in a sort of Danish style, open Danish smørrebrød sandwiches done in an afternoon tea style. And then when I looked at it, when I took all the noise away, it was, do I want to make sandwiches for the rest of my life? That was a big no-no, not really. So then I saw this, I think it was on LinkedIn, saw something about the Smoking Brothers back in England, how they're doing top-end smoked salmon, and I thought, yeah, salmon. I have wonderful memories of salmon, and then for my whole cooking career, I've steered away from salmon, it's a big no-no. I've never put it on menus. If I have the choice to put it on the menu, it's a no. If someone tells me it has to be on the menu, yeah, well, I don't get to decide in some places. But for the 90% of the time, I've steered away from salmon because it's open sea salmon farms. And then I found out the Smoking Brothers went back to London, found the Smoking Brothers, went up to the Cotswolds. I was lucky enough to be taken in by them, shown their system, shown how they do it. Really enjoyed it. Thought this is interesting. It's art, it's craft, it's a bit of graft. It's what I am, you know. So enjoyed that. Came back to Denmark, and that's when I found the Danish onshore salmon. That was just like, wow, this is it, because it's drug free, it's chemical free, it's grown on land, it doesn't interfere with the wild stocks, it's controlled, it's run by the Fødevarestyrelsen, which is like the veterinary service here, so it's checked, there's controls, there's no worms, there's no lice, and I was like, this is this is amazing. This is a beautiful piece of fish. 25 years I've been cooking, I've never seen a fresher piece of salmon than what I got from the Danish salmon farm. So then I put the Danish salmon farm, Smoking Brothers techniques together, and I was like, this is good. This is really good. And then we used to have a few issues with the farm and the harvesting schedule. So some weeks I would get salmon, some weeks I wouldn't. And I was like, fuck, this is a problem. So then that was when I was like, well, let me try dry aging. So I was like, all right, let's give it a go. So I started to dry age it. I literally got a bit of string, tied a fish up, hung it for a week, then put that through the same process. And then at the end, I was like, this is it. I've got it. This is something special now, you know? And then that's all well and good in your own tiny little mind that you feel like you've got something special, but you have to take that now and get some sort of recognition of that fact that you really do have a product that is superior, that you can continually to make it better. So there's no point, you don't go, oh, this is the best. No, this is good. I'm going to make it even better. So then I sent a letter in the post, proper old snail mail, handwritten letter to Paul Cunningham. He's a 2-star Michelin chef. Then he said, bring some round to his house. I went round his house. We had a nice cup of tea. We had a good chinwag. Left in the salmon. Didn't hear anything. And I was thinking, oh, shit. You know, perhaps it's not as good as I think it is, you know. And then, as I say, in my tiny little mind, I'm thinking, oh, no, what have I done? You know, I've risked my house. My missus wants to kill me because I've put all the money into this. And then I couldn't wait any longer. I phoned him up. I said, "What's going on, mate?" And he said, "Well, yeah, oh, yeah, no, it's all right. He said, it's on the menu. I put it on the menu when we open." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, you're on the menu." So I was like, I went from no one to a 2-star Michelin. That was one of my first ever customers. So then I was like, this is it. I've hit the ground running. And it's not like El Dorado, just because you got a 2-star Michelin, because most public and normal people can't give a shit about 2-star Michelin. And rightly so. It means nothing to them. And that keeps the humbleness and the reality of what you're trying to do. I'm trying to make salmon for everyone. Yes, a 2-star Michelin uses it, but I want the little old lady who lives up the road, which she might only buy it once a year. She's just as an important customer as the big 2-star Michelin. So I want the company to encompass all tastes, all walks of life, and all people on different income. You know, so it's not cheap, but if you only eat it once a year, eat the best. Enjoy it. Savor it like we used to do. I remember when I was little growing up, and it's a market called Club Row at Petticoat Lane in Aldgate in London. I used to go down there and you'd get your smoked salmon bagels, and the guy would be outside and he'd have a barrel of the smoked salmon, and he'd pull it out and he'd give you a few slices, and he'd wrap it up in a bit of white wax paper, and you'd take it home for your tea on a Sunday night, and it was like Christmas. It was like the excitement, the smell, opening this pack, and then having a slice or just cutting a little bit off, nicking a little bit off before you got clipped around the ear. So you to leave it alone because we're making bagels with it, or it's for your tea. And it was like just the enjoyment of it, and the mass production industry now has taken that away because you can afford to buy smoked salmon any time of the year. It's on every shelf, you know. But what are you buying? And no one seems to ask the questions anymore because it's the price, and it's the way the industry has hid the facts of what's going on behind the scenes of the salmon industry, which is a real worry, you know. But I'm not here to worry about what other people do or what they don't do. I'm just here to look you in the eye with an honest integrity, passion, and say, like, what I say is true. I don't put anything else into it. There's no drugs, there's no chemicals. And I can't say more than what I do say. I'm not here to worry about other smoked salmons. I'm just here to do the best that I can. I want you to feel safe. I want you to be able to give it to your grandkids, your kids, knowing that it's as pure as you can get.
Yes, I think what drives you and the mission you're in, it's very interesting that you're bringing that childhood memory of how you were consuming salmon when you were younger to people today, and also how you stopped promoting salmon, how you were not using it in your menus because of its climate implications, or if it's environmental
Mm-hmm.
implications, and how it was damaging the seas, and how it became unconsciously industrialized.
Mm.
And then the part of the story that is fascinating is that how you put together something that you found in the Cotswolds, and something that you found there in Denmark, and now you're bringing this to the world. So it's a great challenge to get the world to understand that now it's possible to have salmon the way you wanted it from the beginning, and the reasons you were rejecting it for so long, and you're the right person to bring it to the world now. It's exciting. It's exciting to see how you're treating it, and how proud you are about
Yeah,
the RNS
I
product.
think it's
Yeah.
important because, as I say, you get with 25 years worth of experience in food and cooking. All you have is the integrity that you put and buy ingredients with, and there's a big difference between people who say they're a chef and a kitchen manager. And most people won't admit it, but most people nowadays are a kitchen manager. You don't have the authority to go and search for these ingredients. You don't have the authority to go and purchase and buy these specific things from one specific supplier because it's easy to get everything you need from one supplier. So people are sort of forced in because you get a kickback and you'll save a bit of money and you'll do this and you'll do that. But at the end, you only have your own integrity and basically it's like being naked. When you put food on a plate and you send it to someone, it's like, this is the soul of it. This is the food. This is it. This is the naked. I can't get any more stripped down than what I'm doing here, because a plate of food should have the essence of what it is. It should be no more than sort of 3 flavors, and simply done because you respect it more. If you go to Henna Kirkby Crow, which is the 2-star Michelin that uses my salmon, the simplicity of the food is stunning because it's an art form to reduce things down and to take things away, because it's easier to keep adding things to things because of for some reason, everyone wants to put flowers and fucking micro herbs until it's falling over on top of all the food now. It does nothing for the food. It makes it look good on an Instagram picture, but if you're eating it, it's not really doing much, and there's an art to taking all of the noise away and to leave the simplicity of the ingredients to talk for themselves, married in a perfect harmony, So at Henna Kirkby Crow now, they've got 1 stick of asparagus, RNS salmon, and hollandaise sauce, and a little lemon oil. Job done. Simple. You eat that, you're going to lick your lips, and you're going to go, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yes, and I think this is where we touch upon how you and I got together and got connected, because the way you are communicating RNS, which is Royal Newburgh Smokehouse, to the world, is precisely that. It's stripped, it's naked, it's this visualization, this way of communicating with people with no extra stuff floating around, but really going to the essence of things. So can you tell me a bit about how you're visualizing this, how you're using visualized value and all of this?
Well, visualized value, Mr. Jack Butcher, we both know and love him. That's how we connected in the first place, through the Discord. I've got loads of time for Jack. I listened to him on Not Investment Advice podcast. Started there.
Actually, Not Investment Advice, by Jack
that was
Butcher and
the
his
podcast
friends.
that I started my journey with him. So before I knew it, I was down a rabbit hole. Before I knew it, I had purchased an NFT. Before I knew it, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm enjoying it. It was like being a kid again. The joy of minting something and putting it in your wallet and doing all these stupid things that basically like collecting cards when you was a kid, but in a digital format. And I'm 50 fucking years old, so I should know better. I'm collecting like cartoon JPEGs and thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread. But you do what you do. And it enabled me to move into an ecosystem. When I saw Jack's work, it blew me away. I was like, wow, this is so clever. Because you take everything else away, you dust off all the noise, and you are left with just something so simple that it right there, it gets you right there. Do you know what I mean? It hits you and you're like, fucking hell, how simple is that? And then there's a little message underneath, like a 1-sentence thing, and you're like, oh, that's just so clever. So clever. So then it was like, right, how can I do that with what I want to do? And I don't want to compare myself. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be like that. I just want to be, this is RNS. This is what we do. So then it was a guy called Asuko, which is one of the brothers from VV. We connected through something that he was doing on Instagram. He was doing hashtags. And then we connected. And I loved the guy straight away. I was like, we're gonna work together. And I trust you implicitly. And I believe in what you can do. Sometimes it just takes that as well. It takes someone to tell someone, I believe in you and your talent and what we're going to build, rather than just going, okay, I think you're really good. Can you do this for me? I'm not telling someone to do something. You don't tell me to cook or how to smoke salmon. You don't need to. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to say, right, okay, this is what we the interpretation of it. How do we take all the words away? How do we take all these stuff away and just get to the pure essence of what the messages we're trying to put back out? So then it was sort of 2 years I've been thinking about just the photography style. So I'm like, once you photograph something, that's it. It's done. Right. So then you move on. Okay. But I don't want to move on. I want to tell a story. I want to continually show you a way that you can visually feel storytelling going on. So then I was like, right, how the fuck do you do that? I don't know. So then you keep thinking. And then I was like, oh, look at that. So then it was something, I found some shadow photography and I was like, that's it. Because if you show a shadow of raw fish, you're not showing the raw fish. People get upset by looking at raw dead things with blood and stuff, which rightly or wrongly, this is part of the process. We need to use dead things to make nice things with, but some people are a little bit cotton wool. They don't like seeing it. So there was like, right, okay, let's take it away. Let's show the shadow of it. So you know what's happening, you know the process, but you don't see it, you only see the shadow. So then I was like, that's brilliant, we've got it. So then you can, when I do the filleting of the fish as well, I take the fish away. So I'm only left with the actual bone carcass. And then we do shadow photography with that. And then once we do our plated food, we'll do a bit of shadow photography with that. And our website is quite dark and it's sort of shadowy as well. And it's very, very modern sort of drawing on it as well. So you get that sort of sense of dark mystique, of smokehouse feel. So, yeah, it's not, you don't just find these things, they evolve until you actually stumble across them and then you think, oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? And there's only me here, so I just keep stumbling, falling over, getting up, stumbling, falling over, getting up, thinking, oh, I've no idea what I'm doing. But you feel it, and I'm like, this feels right. It looks right, it feels right, and I don't need anyone's approval.
Yes, I think that's part of the most captivating parts of your stories, that you're doing it for yourself. You are leaving behind your previous career. You're going into this with full heart, full body, full spirit towards revolutionizing the salmon industry and the world of salmon. You're bringing a very innovative way of communicating, a way of so you're inventing everything as you go.
Yeah,
And what I love is that when something doesn't work, you are very open and very humble about it, and learning from those mistakes much more than you would from your past successes.
yeah,
So yeah,
completely.
I commend you on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't look at anything as a success. Even 25 years in kitchens, everything was what you do. It's just what you do. Nothing, there is no success. Success is, it's just a made up word that makes people feel like they've got an ego. So I gave up my ego many years ago. I used to be a bit of a twat in the kitchen, but I got over that and I grew up. So the ego then left me and I don't have that self centeredness of bullshit. So, but I've actually got like 700 bricks on a van, Himalayan salt bricks. So I bought a load of Himalayan salt bricks from a salt mine in Pakistan, and I've got them coming over. I've just found out they've been impounded in the customs here in Denmark because I don't have an import license. No, I didn't know I needed an import license. I said it's easier to buy drugs than salt bricks. No one needs a license for fucking drugs today. So yeah. So I'm just in between talking to the two different government agencies now to get my bricks authorized so they can get released, and then I'm going to build a big Himalayan brick salt wall in my fridge, and they've graded the color of the bricks to get the most next color towards salmon. So when it's all done, it's going to look stunning. It's going to have a massive pink wall, and then I'm going to be able to do the shadow photography on the back of the pink wall. It's going to be, yeah, stunning. And it's not just to take pictures. Like the Himalayan salt bricks actually considerably do a wonderful job in the dry aging process of exactly the same as you would in the beef industry. The beef industry have been using the Himalayan and dry aging for a long, long time. We used to be told when we was young in kitchens that the freshness, the fresher the fish out of the sea, the better it was. And if it had the rigor mortis in it, which was like the muscles like that tense, that's even better. Now we know that's complete bullshit because that just means it's like when you die, everything toughens up. After 1, 2, 3 days, it relaxes, and slowly the umami intensifies into the actual meat itself. It gives it a nicer structure, a much better flavour, and it's exactly the same that what I'm doing now.
It seems like those were kind of your secrets because it got scrambled. The signal got scrambled.
Ah, it's
Yeah,
not to be
yeah. So
told. Yeah,
the internet doesn't want you to give your
that's
secret
fine.
recipes away.
That's all right. We don't mind that. We don't mind that.
All right.
It's always good to have a little secret or two. So I've been told.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, but in any event, I mean, uh, it seems like something that was very important here was how to get that fish and that flesh from rigor mortis, which is tough, and how you do a very special job making it relax and become like really well treated. You're doing it with a lot of love and a lot of passion, and that's probably the biggest part of your secret recipe. And that's what I mean. You're not very humble about the flavor, about the uniqueness, about the fact that there is no second best.
No, there's no second best. But we'll prove that. We'll prove that over time. But even the box. So my daughter came up with an idea on how to package it, and I was like, what a good idea. So now my brother-in-law, he's a carpenter, so he's going to make like the original sort of test box for it. But I want it to be a wooden box. It's going to have the emblem of the fish engraved. The idea is you get the box, you open it up, you take the salmon out, you turn the top of the box over. It has a cutting guide, which is the rib cage of the salmon, which is part of our branding. Um, and then it's also a cutting guide. So you flip the box over, flip the lid over, you put the fish down, you put the fish on the table, the box becomes the chopping board, the chopping board becomes the centerpiece of the table, and then you have the guide on top of it to cut the slices to the exact proper thickness to get the best bite quality of every single slice of the fish. Should be good. I don't know. Sounds good. I'll make it look good.
Yes, yes, and that's the privilege of having like the very best in the world, that you're doing something that is at the pinnacle of the industry, or the most elite thing that can be seen. So you're doing everything like the best. It's
It's
giving the best and the most integrity
yeah,
is a key here. You know, you're
yeah. It's
keeping
how
up with.
it's you get one chance to do. Like so now I realise I've got one chance to do one thing. So do it fucking brilliantly. And I want people to understand that from first click to the last lick, everything has been thought of. From the first click to the last lick, every single thing
First click to last click.
should be
That's
should be just
brilliant.
it
That's
should be a
brilliant.
journey of symphony. I want a symphony going from the moment you buy it to the time it's delivered to the time you open it. There's going to be a secret thing in every single box as well that we're not going to talk about because it's a secret. So that will be part of the branding as well. Whoever gets the first person to open the box is the person that gets the secret out of every single box. And I want people to talk about it. I want them to understand that this is different. This is Steve fucking Jobs of the salmon world.
Yeah, can you tell us about how you designed the packaging and how you come up with all of these ideas to make them as good as the product that is inside and as the story of what you have been doing?
Yeah, I didn't want it to be plastic. I didn't want it to be. I don't think you have to show the fish, which when you see most sort of salmons, it's in clear plastic because for some reason they want to show you how shit it is. I don't want to show you how good mine is. I want it to be like jewelry. You don't see jewelry. You get a box and you flip the lid open, and then the jewelry's inside. It's got a nice little bit of velvet or some other nice fabric that makes the jewelry stand out. And that was the sort of idea. I was like, oh yeah, I want you to like pull it back slowly, the lid, and then reveal like black food paper inside, and then it'll have a little sort of sticker emblem on it, and then you've got to take that out, and then you've got to open that, and then you come to the beautiful side of salmon in the box, and then you take the paper away, you put it on top of the lid, and then you can serve it. But the idea is that the anticipation, so from the first click, as we spoke about, the way the website works, the way you get drawn through the website, it's a journey. I want you all to come on the journey with me of discovery, of finding this is the best thing you're ever going to eat in the smoked salmon world, and I want that to be a special all the way through. So when you go on the website, the journey there, when you get it delivered, the journey there, when you unpack it, I want us to do another sort of little bag, so you get a little holdall bag as well as part of the buy whole side, get this as well. It's about giving. It's not about, obviously the business has to make money, but I'm not in this to go, it has to be profit and loss. It's not about that. It's about, I'm crafting a product that it's about an experience that will make money. It will generate money. I've no doubt about that. I didn't start this with the sole intention of making myself rich. I've never had fuck all, so I'm no problem about that, really. I would like to, my only wish now, my only want is I want to be able to travel when I want, where I want. So that's my only goal. I don't need shiny objects. I don't need new cars. I don't need any of that sort of stuff. But what I do need is that people feel like the journey and they enjoy every single moment of it. And then I want to sort of get like a family club together. So you become part of the family, and then when it's your kids' birthdays, I'm going to send you a little princess or a little prince pack of salmon for your children on their birthdays. And then I want to get like a little NFT that grows up with the kids. So if your kids won, the NFTs won. When they're 2, the NFTs 2, so on and so forth, until they get to be a teenager, and then they can buy their own salmon, But every year, a little pack of salmon, nothing much, but just something. We know your children's birthday is coming up. Here's a pack of salmon from us, as part of the sort of Royal Club membership that we will make. That will be an option for you. So if you're a family, you choose that. If you're a single person, you can choose a small piece. We are just starting out, but there's so much that we can add of value to give people more. I don't want to be on a supermarket shelf where it's meaningless. There's no personality. It's like you've got a 0.1 of a second to make a decision on whose salmon you're going to buy. I'm not interested in you. I don't want them people. I want the people to go, I want John's salmon. That's the salmon I want. You want my salmon. John, RNS, that's what you want, because of all the things that I will make and give as part of the pleasure. Because it's not just about the art of making it, it's about the art of giving it, and it's about the art of distributing it. It's all, and there's no better one to look at. Steve Jobs, Apple, they went through 5,000 iterations of opening a box until they got the slide exactly right. I haven't got that sort of money, but my intentions are the same for a pauper. For someone with no money, I have the same intentions. I want every part of the process to be as pleasurable as I can make it.
Yes, and I think your story is a great example for people who are becoming solopreneurs, those of us who are above 50 years old and have a career behind us, and we can start something on our own, and we can do it on our own terms. We can do it based on our own standards and with our own objectives, and not for things that the world dictates, like as you said, making a lot of money or doing. If you love traveling and that's what you want to do, then that's what your goal is. So yeah, I think it's great that you are sharing this story, because somebody who's not a chef and somebody who's not revolutionizing the way a particular food is sold can listen to this and learn and make it an example of, yeah, it can be done, because John out there is doing it. So
Yeah,
I I
you're
think
never
it's
too
your
old.
courage. Yeah, I want to highlight the thing that you're courageous, that you're doing things that haven't been done before in ways that haven't been done before, but that it comes from your heart. It comes from
Mm.
inside you.
Well, my missus calls me Teflon John. She says I have this sort of Teflon skin where I just don't care. And I think that's through the way I was brought up. We grew up in E1 London. We had nothing. We still have nothing. But what we have got now, we've got West Ham and we are European champions, which has took 43 years. It's been 50 years for me waiting to see it. So that's about all we've got. But yeah, you have to believe in something and you have to keep that integrity within yourself. And there'll be a lot of people along the way giving you an opinion of what you should and shouldn't do. But if their opinion was so good, they'd be opening their own business instead of telling you what to do. So you're always going to get these twats who want to give you their opinion of what you should and shouldn't do. So a lot of the time it's hard to turn the noise off from the idiots to the one person who's really giving you some good alpha information. And the beauty of the VV community that we go to is we don't have the idiots in there. So all we get is pure love and alpha from a group of people collectively. If you looked at us all singly, we were all a bunch of misfits. But collectively, together in VV, we're like the giga Chad brain power of the group is just phenomenal.
Yes, phenomenal, phenomenal. And those who participate most are the ones who give the most value. And yeah, I want to salute the VV community, because it's something really special.
Yeah, completely, completely. I can't speak highly enough of it, and I can't speak highly enough of them actually letting a sweaty Cockney 50-year-old smoked salmon knob into their community. Because now I'm in, you can't get rid of me.
No, someday we will have a feast, and we will all have the greatest salmon in the world.
Definitely, we have to have V Fest.
Yes,
So, Jack,
V-Fest.
you need to sort out V Fest, mate, and we can all meet up. And yeah, we can listen to some good music, we can tell some good stories, and we can eat some fucking great salmon.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Um, and thinking about things, I mean, a little bit more loosely. What kind of music would you recommend people to listen to that most people don't listen to? You were saying raves and things like that from the
Well,
80s,
I
but
started it, yeah, early 80s was, I started with hip hop. So I got quite into hip hop, and then they used to do the tagging of the trains. So that sort of art, I used to love that. I couldn't do it, but I used to love it. Like all the tagging and trains and of the walls and that. And then that was hip hop. So I started sort of out in hip hop. Well, just before hip hop, it was reggae. So I used to be the only white man in the reggae rave, and I was about 13 years old, and I've never been small. And he had the big rastas, big dreadlock going, "What happened, white boy?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, all right, mate."
yeah.
And I'd have my big spliff and my can of really strong lager, and I'd just quite happily mosey around these reggae raves, which were amazing. And from the reggae, the ragga rave, it was hip hop. From hip hop, it was acid house. From acid house, it was garage. And yeah, I've always loved music. I've always loved partying. So I've been a party animal for many, many years. I don't know if I still got it in me. I think I have, scratch the surface. It's always still there. But
Yes. Oh yeah.
now I found when I'm doing my salmon, when I'm doing the raw salmon, but when I've finished and doing the smoked salmon, I'm now listening to classical music, predominantly violin, because I in my head I marry my work with the violin and the way they sort of do the violin, and it's the way I sort of play with my knife, and it's the way I clean the salmon. And I work on my own. I've been working on my own for the last sort of 2.5, 3 years now. So you've got to have a little bit of fun with yourself as well. You know, you can't be too serious. Everything's a game, and you have to play it like a game. And the better the game you play, the more fun you're going to have. And
Yes.
it's getting into that flow state, you know. So in your mind, you're in the moment. There is nothing else. And also, when I play classical music, there's no start or stop or noise or singing really. It's just music, you know, and it's in the background, and you can relax to it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about words or song or meaning. It just plays, and you can be totally in your sort of flow focus.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And also, where can people? I mean, say you mentioned you have a website. I'm going to link that. Where in the world can you get your salmon? Because
At the
distribution is
moment,
something you've been working on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really working on distribution, and hopefully, in a few months, we may have it outside the borders. At this precise moment, it's in Denmark only. If you're in London, I can get some sides smuggled over to there. You just DM me, and I can get some salmon smuggled over the border into London. Apart from that, it's basically Denmark, shores of Denmark only, really, at the moment. But I'm working very hard to get the product out. I don't trust people to distribute it, so I'll distribute it myself. I don't want people to come in and tell me what wonderful stuff it is. Give me 20% to distribute it. Fuck off. I'll do it myself for that much money. So, but that takes time because I haven't got a Scooby Doo what I'm doing when it comes to distribution. But as I say, I learn as I go. I fall over, I get up. I fall over, I get up, and I'm not staying down. So
Yeah.
I will
It's
find a way to. I will find a way to get it out there.
Yeah, it's coming. So for those of us in the rest of the world listening to this, be patient. John is going to figure it out.
FOMO. A bit of FOMO is good.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so hold on to that thought, and then something else. I mean, do you have any parting thoughts, things that you want to tell everybody when as we finish our
Uh,
conversation?
yeah, I think to the people out there that you were speaking about earlier, the ones who want to start doing something and have got this sort of feeling in their self, then you've got to listen to it. You don't want to get to the end of your life and regret anything. I've lived for 50 years. I've never regretted one thing. I've done some stupid shit. Trust me, some very stupid shit. I've never regretted it though. I never considered myself as a bad or a wrong person, but I've always lived in the moment and I've done exactly what I wanted to do, rightly or wrongly. My missus probably hates me half the time for being like this, but I can't help it. It's how I am. It's who I am. There's a guide that's sort of like an antenna. I don't know how to explain it or what. And it's a feeling that you have inside, and it's a feeling that makes the journey that you want to go on. If you feel it, follow it. You know, as I say, follow the fish. That's what I do. I follow my fish. I follow the feeling it gives me, and that's become part of my brand. Is follow the fish. But internally, that means I follow what I feel is right, and how I've ended up where I've ended up is by using that sort of intuition. That and you listen to that more when you shut all the noise out. So probably the best time for me is after I've done my swim, I do my Wim Hof, then I do some stretching. I find in the stretching moment is my flow, is when sort of the antennas open up and the ideas start flowing in. The only thing is I can't stop what I'm doing to write the ideas down to go back to what I'm doing. So by the time I've sort of finished doing my stretching, I forgot half the stuff that's come and it's gone again. But that's the beauty of life. If it comes back, it comes back, and if if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's fantastic, and also for those of us, and particularly something like what I do is coaching people and being next to, being a fellow traveler to people like yourself who is achieving all of these things and being in harmony with themselves and everything is a great privilege. And I really appreciate you, John. I I love it that you had the time today to join us and being on the show. And I am really happy being here with you in the community, and also the friendship that's growing between us. So I am really grateful to you, and I wish you all the best this week, that you're having all of these great things happening for you. And so,
And this is
yeah,
one of
thank you.
them. This is one of them, Fernando. Talking to you, mate, it's a great thing. So I appreciate the time, and it's an honour that you have given me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate it, because I respect what you're trying to do and what you are doing as well. And obviously, getting someone like Chris Williams on is just amazing. And then for me to be following on with my bullshit, I hope some people find it interesting. That's all.
So
And
so do I, and I
yeah,
think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. So, thank you, John.
fantastic.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. Absolute
All
pleasure,
right.
Fernando.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.